As the wheel turns, so do days are rides. And this is the top of the story that I've been seeing in the local cycling circles. And it's one of those situations where we're always hoping for the best, expecting for the worst. And that's always been the cycling industry in itself. But in today's day and age of the crazy chaos on the day-to-day, hour-to-hour moments, in any case, the top one that just launched this morning from bicycle retailer was Shimano reports decline operation income despite sales growth. And it's all on Brain on the web. Brain is the short version of bicycle retailer and industry news. Looking at the Shimano bike sales are up by % by the third quarter, and I believe this is the cumulative through the year. They're still down. Well, they were down from last year month to date. So from a deficit of 27%, looking at only a 5% increase, it's not gaining a lot of ground, but it is a positive marker. Why I really want to talk about this, and it's what intrigues me in my perspective, is, well, we got an inflamed, that's probably the best way to put it, inflamed market, really agitated U.S. market, which was a huge market for a lot of these companies. And Shimano, if you don't know, they're based out of Japan, and they do have factories in various other countries, and they are one of the largest suppliers of parts and have been for decades. They're known for the high-end road and mountain and so forth. And we'll get a little bit of the componentry bit here in a second, but looking at the numbers, it's interesting. They do fold in their Shimano fishing division, which, if you don't know, they make one hell of a great fishing reel. I don't think they do a fly reel, but just your standard reels and also deep sea fishing reels, I believe. Obviously all industries are suffering at this point, especially in the States here, and also a downturn of economics and interest of doing anything other than not spending money. We're all kind of struggling through. And looking at Shimano, and why is Shimano a good benchmark, if you will? Yeah, they have a little bit of increase, but they have done some pretty aggressive changes. Today's show is brought to you by Medem Bikes, where you can find bicycles that won't break the bank. Great brands like Univega and Vin Diesel, but give you a good quality, safe ride to be able to do those extended rides and get into cycling. You'll find a link below with added savings to extend that adventure starting now. So looking at the month or year-to-year chart on this is pretty important to see. And a lot of us kind of seen this, like we've seen from 10 years back, 14, pretty stagnant, nothing major. There's a little bit of pop. I think that was probably where the e-bikes started kicking a little bit and gravel became a thing. And we all know about the COVID smash. And now we're basically smashed down in 2023. They're doing a lot of cutbacks. They're basically streamlining their company. Several different articles in Brain. You can just, in the search, just hit Shimano, and you can read up on all the changes that the company has done in the last 3 years. Pretty aggressive. Look at how the trend here for their operational income is going down, down, down. So they're trying to make it more lean so they gain more of a profit. Although the sales are, I would say, pretty close to flatline-ish and a very small percentage. What does that mean, right? They're making more efficient, leveraging what they have and so forth, but they're able to maintain this increase. Well, what does that increase entail? I mean, they make bike parts, right? And bike parts, when you see a huge influx, it's usually something maybe got released that's new, everybody needed, or there's a higher demand. A lot of bike companies like Shimano will release something new because it's new to help bolster numbers and excitement in cycling, and it's kind of like a trickle effect, they hope. And when you're looking at Shimano as well, a lot of their orders are pre-bookings from months and months in advance, because brands like Trek, Specialized, Canyon, all those that carry Specialized on their lines, they really have to think about what's going to go on that particular bike design months in advance before even production run. Looking at Shimano being one of the leaders, not the only one. SRAM has really been a big competitor push. So they are really bucking up against Shimano's leadership but they've been around a long time and they are steady. I mean, they don't do aggressive anything. It's very thought out and worked through because they've learned through their mistake, hopefully for the most part, for releasing product too soon without testing, because it is a colossal nightmare as a mechanic getting a product that's been shipped out or released too soon without bugs being kind of worked through and that kind of thing. And their increase is pretty good. And they have a couple things, as you probably see in the advertisement here, Di2 on GRX. And then they have, I think, a battery individual on a couple of their models. I saw in the shop the newer XTs. And I mean, granted, it's still on a $6,000 bike, which is pretty expensive, but having a Di2 system on a full suspension, it looked pretty slick. Talking to some shops of late that the latest Di2 push is good. That's going to help bolster their numbers, and they are a traded company, so it'll help with their stock and stuff, I believe. And in addition to the new Qs that was released, which is kind of the silent winner for a lot of bike people, because you can get that one by wider range. And I do have a bike in the shop right now. The Trek FX is a year old with Qs on it and worked on it. It's, the shifter the dray there, it seems a little weak, as in kind of a lot of flex there, but it still shifts really well and it hits that range. And rumor has it they're going to be adding Di2 to that as well, which is going to be a trickle down tech from their upper stuff down to basically, believe it or not, it's still expensive, but it's their lower line componentry. Therefore, you can get nicer componentry on those bikes at around $2,000. I'm assuming they're probably going to be landing at, and therefore it gets it into the reach of the rest of the cycling market. Because if you really think about it, the cycling market is not just the high-end Trek, Specialized, Giant, and Canyon, and various others, because they would like to think they are, but they know they're not. It's kind of like I mentioned this before, it's kind of like the brewery, like beer. The biggest person or biggest entity in the room is Budweiser, and everybody else is fighting over the other 8 to 10%. That is the cycling industry. When you're looking at Walmart and Target, the department store brands, those are the ones that have the most mass volume of units, but not necessarily the highest dollar, obviously, because when you're looking at selling $10,000 bikes versus a $300 bike on a Walmart floor, that's a little bit of different discrepancy. But looking at how I see this with Shimano releasing some newer componentry coming up in the next year, that's more price point, not just the top end, more price point, warm hug-ish, is really going to help them, hopefully push those numbers to be a little bit further up. And this is something that we want Shimano to be. If you shop on Amazon, I do have a Amazon store, like the latest pick, basically, of products that are on sale, that kind of thing, and various other parts and tools and so forth that I suggest using within those particular categories. Check that out. Go through, and even if you don't buy the product that I suggest and you find something else that fits your needs better, or your grocery list, or whatever you end up buying, I get a little kick. So that's a good opportunity for you to get something, and I get something that helps support me doing what I'm doing. Strong and healthy to some level, because they provide a good chunk of the componentry. And granted, they've had some issues, of course, but you definitely want the company to stick around so you don't have any recall issues of like all of a sudden the company's gone, you don't have your stuff taken care of. Them and Campanoli back in the 90s for road stuff was always neck and neck, and now we have the SRAM component. And also they have the lower end, which they're probably addressing with the Qs and so forth with Microshift. Microshift has made a huge impact in the cycling market, and you would find those components on some brands a lower end gravel or road that are $1,500 to $2,000. And you're like, Microshift on that is, as mechanics, before that, Microshift, all we saw was replacement parts. Like, the other part of that piece too is they did reference the United States market being a little flat and down and not that great. case in point, if you're living underneath a rock, we're having some serious issues here, and trying to get in products into the United States is very troublesome for United States companies, as well as companies outside the United States that do sell to United States consumers. So there's a huge disruption there. So they did mention that a lot of that increase or leverage is other markets, and the European market is actually, they're huge in cycling. And you're from Europe and chiming in on this, it's huge on cycling. Looking at that, it's just kind of crazy, and it makes it really difficult for those big companies to forecast, to adjust, and move forward for the next model year or two. Because, if you look at the big brands like Trek, Specialized, Giant, all those, they're looking to get bikes in production 9 months to 12 months. So a year out before they would think that particular model may hit the showroom floor. Well, what's the market? Is there going to be a market for that hitting the showroom floor in a year from now? And is it the right stuff? It's, the crystal ball is broken. There's nothing that they can really, they're just really relying on safe products. So more narrow and deep on the products that they're going to, especially going into the United States, that they know they sell. Maybe a certain couple kids bikes, and they'll narrow that down. They'll narrow down some models, which probably needed to be done anyway, as case in point, when Trek basically said about 2 years now, like, we're going to cut 40% of our SKUs. We got too much stuff. We got to reduce that. Working at Trek stores as an inventory manager, yes, they did. Trying to keep track of all that. And as an independent bike dealer, it made it very challenging to keep those brands happy when they had so much to sell with so many categories. You had to have a certain X dollar or unit amount to appease. So, any case, looking at the bigger stores, independent bike dealers, they've had those challenges too. Thank you for watching the latest installment of the top news of As the Wheel Turns, So Do Days of Our Rides opinion piece. Hopefully you got some insights of what a perspective of a bike shop is with the current events that are going on around them. Yeah, it's still a little muddy waters, but week in and week out, we try to do our best and navigate that for our customers and community. Well, in any case, thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. If it's nice in your neck of the woods, please go for a ride. Until next time, have a wonderful day.